All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks with Erica. Hello, Erica. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing? How is your week going?
Good. I won an armor yesterday, so that's a good run. My trusty Icelander that I brought to nationals that I haven't changed since because I haven't had the time and effort to do so, and it's working, right? I won the armor, so I mean, don't change what was not broken, right?
I mean, it's definitely a move bringing your degenerate research nationals deck to a local tournament. It definitely works. I remember when we finished PT1 and I had this Prism deck that I've been playing, and the first thing that happened when I got back the very next weekend, because the ProQuest season was happening at the same time, I just took the same deck and just smashed the entire thing. And it was this fatigue, grindy deck, and some of the locals were like, why are you playing this? And I'm just like, it's a good deck.
Why do you hate us?
Yeah, but they were playing Starver, so...
Oh, well, then, no.
You know,
it's on them.
It was Starver Chain.
They deserved it.
Starver Chain and Prism, so I had no sympathy for anyone on any other deck, right? There were one or two, I think it was a Lexi player or something that fell under the pain, but that was fine. You kind of get what you come into.
How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I'm off to New York on Saturday, which is going to be exciting. I'm working. I do not think there will be time for Fab, though there is apparently an armory on Monday night that I might be able to
Of course you scouted that out.
I mean, I jumped in that New York...
Is there armory in New York? Check.
I jumped in that New York Discord. I was like, what's going on? It turns out, so the best armory for me to go to would be on Saturday, but I arrived like 3 hours after it finishes, so there's no point.
I want a meta report, a local meta report when you're back.
I'm not going to have a chance, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. We'll see if I can borrow a deck or something on Monday if I have free time. Mostly just going to work and eat Asian food. Those are the two goals for the trip. Work, visit some Irish bars, eat some Asian food. It's going to be good. Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, I'm not there yet, so ask me how I'm feeling about it after a 9-hour flight on Saturday. I might be feeling slightly less optimistic.
Jet lag is a bitch.
Yeah, East Coast. I mean, East Coast is fine, but...
Yeah, when you come back, it's worse.
Yeah, it is, but I don't have to do any, half day of work when I come back, so it'll be fine. Anyway, on to the news of the week. Obviously, we have the banned and restricted list with only one change for our classic constructed meta, which is just the flag that Azalea is getting Bullseye Braces back when Lexi goes, which I don't think is that surprising. I wasn't that surprised to read that. I was like, okay, once Lexi's gone, it's not a problem. Yeah, the card itself, outside of the interaction with Endless Arrows and stuff like that, it's not really that strong, in Azalea. It's not the same level of strength. But obviously the big topic was no changes for Lexi. How do you feel about that?
I mean, the buzz around Twitter before the BNR was like, okay, what do we want to see banned? And there was so many suggestions. Like, people wanted Voltaire gone, people wanted Rain Racer gone, people wanted Three of a Kind gone, and everything in between. There was even arrows on the discussion list of various sources. And so seeing nothing is very interesting. At the same time, I think we're going into a new set, right? And making a big change right before a new set, I think, is more risk than reward in a sense, because you don't know what the new meta is going to bring, and unless they see something that is really, really, really bonkers, like they did with the Stubby Hammers on Fi prior to the Uprising release, when they did that pre-ban, then that is also curious to see that there is no such thing that they at least have seen coming up in the new set that is going to be bonkers with something that is already existing, right? So keeping a very tame BNR this time around.
Yeah, because the only Ranger card we've seen so far from Bright Lights, the expansion slot one, is the one that busts your opponent with the two tokens. What is it? A Quickening and a Courage.
Right.
And no, as I say, Lexi's not going to play that. Like, yes, it's a blue 0 for 4, but they're not playing that card, right? They don't want to give their aggro opponents more tools against them. So if they can, it might be a Riptide specialized. No, I don't think it is. I think it's just a 0 for 4. But the point is, like, we haven't seen any of the generics yet. We have no idea if Ranger is going to get a power boost from this set at all. And there's, of course, 200 new cards coming in for Mechanologist that could potentially knock Lexi off her perch, in a sense, as well. But, I mean, I know you've been following debates on Twitter. I know I always follow debates on Twitter. One of the narratives that came out of this lack of changes was this discussion. Are we just sacrificing a ProQuest season to Lexi? Are we just saying, look, we want her gone, we expect her to be gone, we have Worlds coming up, and obviously the next Band of Restrictedness is coming out just before Worlds. So a lot of people have been talking about this sacrifice. They've been saying, okay, well, you're happy to let Lexi smash through a ProQuest season just to guarantee that she gets Living Legend. Do you think there's a little bit of that going on, or?
I mean, it's a strategy, I guess.
Guaranteed. It is a strategy.
Yeah, but at the same time, as I already said, it's a risk to do something major now and then not being able to do anything else before the release of the new set, which we don't know how that is going to impact things. It's more risk and reward, right? So letting Lexi have its own limelight and also adding that banner restricted announcement right before Worlds, or not right before, but like 2 weeks prior or something like that, also makes a commitment that they are ready to let her go as soon as the ProQuest season is over, and also giving out 4 Living Legend points per ProQuest win as we go into that season, to really try to speed things up. As next year we're looking at even more heroes being added to the pool at a rapid rate, right? So
yeah, that was one of the most fascinating parts about that, is that they gave us this hint about the future of Flesh and Blood, which is no more supplemental sets, or potentially maybe one or something, maybe much more infrequently. And that
much less so, yeah.
That means like every set is going to be bringing either 3 or 4 or 6. They're probably
Outsiders or 6, so
yeah, but there were some reprints there, so it doesn't really count.
Right.
The point is that we could be getting upwards of, I mean, they're saying 3 to 4 sets a year, so we could be getting somewhere between 12 to 16 new heroes in the next year. And then this doubling of the Living Legend point system means they're going to be rotating so much faster. And that's interesting. Like, I've seen lots of debate, and I'd be interested to hear what you think about this, but lots of debate the past week about, like, the original promise of Flesh and Blood as a hero-based game, and what we've seen over the past 3 years, which is that a few heroes got Living Legend, but the majority stayed playable, right? And now we're moving into this aggressive Living Legend, like tons of classic constructed legal heroes being printed. And obviously there's this theoretical target number of Living Legend heroes. Heroes they want legal in the meta to avoid like it just being too confusing for people. So we're going to be getting to a point where fan favorite heroes start to get Living Legend points a lot faster. And there's a very big discussion, I think, brewing in the background, especially for certain people, mostly Prism players who aren't enjoying new Prism as much as the old one, as to like, is the promise of Flesh and Blood, I can play a hero that matches my aesthetic, I can bond with a hero like Azalea or Prism, a character, and then play that character consistently, not permanently, not forever, but consistently through my Flesh and Blood journey. And what happens if that Living Legend cycle increases and I spend longer without that hero, or maybe I don't like the new version, right? I think that's a big question for people.
Yeah, but I also see an opening here with the new Living Legends format as well. So the OG Prism players can have a chance to battle things back with their old Prism decks, and also the Starvo peeps, or also the Starvo fans can also come back even stronger with the Awakening and the whole shebang.
Do you think it's the same? I mean, for me, the main format that gets played locally is CC and Blitz and Draft. Like, no one plays Commoner, no one plays like these edge formats. And I had that big worry because a few people have said, hey, Living Legend is there for everyone who wants to play the original one. Is that if your local community just wants to play, like, you know, there's a ProQuest coming up, there's a Pro Tour coming up, there's Nats coming up, there's so much OP going on that the pressure is, let's play the format that is going to lead into that OP season. And Living Legend, you know, is unlikely to take over a ProQuest or unlikely to take over a Nationals. And I'd probably not be happy if it did, you know? So I guess the
It's
question,
fun as a side quest
yeah,
more than anything else.
I guess the question is, do we feel like Living Legend is really an answer, or is it just the only thing they've got, right? You know, if your favorite hero was old Prism, I don't have a good answer for you right now. I just have Living Legend. It's the only thing you've got, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think there's two camps, right? There's the competitive camp of people that wants to play the most competitive decks out there, and they are happy to change between the decks, whatever is the most strong at the moment. Then we have the casual player that might have a more favor towards a specific type of hero, and maybe you have this old Lexi player that's been on Lexi from day one and been hardcoring Lexi, and now he's going to be sad when that is going to leave the format and he's not going to be able to play that hero in Blitz or CC. But then that type of player is also super happy to go into these bigger events where they can finally play that hero again in this alternative format, and it's not super competitive, right? Because it's like a smaller event, it's open for everybody to join, and it's more of a casual type of event, and they can just have fun with it again. And then we're hopefully going to see reprints in the future again, right? And also some alternative versions of this here, like we already saw with Prism and the old favorite Guardian Bravo and the Shebang. Like.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I am quite optimistic. I want to draw people's attention. So I've been doing some polls on Twitter that I shared with you, and I think are quite interesting. And one of the first ones that I did was sort of asking people, you know, you have this main hero, you know, say Prism or Lexi or something like that. And how do you view that hero versus the class? So if you're there and you really like Prism or Lexi, do you feel as comfortable saying, okay, well, Lexi's Living Legend, Prism's Living Legend? I feel just as comfortable playing another Illusionist, another Wizard, another Ranger. Or do you feel like you're tied to that specific hero in terms of aesthetic? So I asked people who had a hero they consider to be their main, so people who would be a Dromai main instead of an Illusionist main. And overwhelmingly, like half of the people said, actually, I only like my hero. And roughly a third said, look, hero and class is the same for me. So I find that quite interesting when we're talking about this, because we've got a lot of people who are saying they fall into this camp of only liking one specific hero. And that kind of raises a question for me, right? Because if we're talking about Lexi getting Living Legend, what is actually the problem with Lexi, right? Her hero ability, is it broken? Like, if we're thinking about the cards that make Lexi overpowered, it's not the hero ability, right? Her hero ability could easily stay in the game. Like, it's good, but it's not breaking anything. It's really just her actual playable cards, right? It's Voltaire, Three of a Kind, Rain Razors.
Codexes.
Like, these are the problem cards, right? And when they print a new Ranger or a new Lexi, those cards are still going to be legal. They're still going to be banned. So I guess the question for me, and I wonder what you think about it, is, are we losing interesting heroes and hero designs for sins that aren't really the fault of the hero card itself?
Well, we will lose Voltaire, right, when Lexi leaves. So whatever new Lexi version is not going to have Voltaire. It's probably going to have some new version of Voltaire that does maybe something similar, but not the exact the same. That might be more in tune with everything the hero wants to do.
Do we lose Voltaire? Or is the Lexi weapon Shiver?
Ooh.
Let me quickly just
Let me find that out.
check this, right? Because, okay, so people who don't know this, every single hero has a signature weapon, and that weapon will get Living Legend alongside them when they rotate. No, it is Voltaire. Okay. Because
I was thinking that Titan's Fist was going to be gone with Oldhim, but then Winter's Veil was gone instead. So I was like, okay.
So for some heroes, their iconic weapon is the token that comes with them in the set. For other heroes, it's the Majestic. And for all the Tales of Aria ones, it does seem to be the Majestic. So Voltaire is rotating. Oh, no, but not for Briar. For Briar, it is the token, because it's Rosetta Thorn. So for Oldhim and Lexi, it's the Majestic. But I think the point still stands, right? Should Ranger players be losing Lexi as an option, and all of these brilliant elemental arrows and frost locks and fusing and all of those gameplay interactions, when really, if you and I sat down and we looked at the problematic cards, we could probably list off 3 or 4 that would bring the power level of Lexi down from someone who Living Legends immediately to someone who will not live in Legend this year, similar to what happened with Briar, who had some bans just before she living Legend, right?
Yeah, the belittle bans, right?
Yeah.
That hit her quite hard.
And people were kind of happy to keep playing Briar at a reduced power level for a long time. And the Briar mains were happy because she was still legal. So why isn't that the best approach, I guess, is the thing. Should LSS be printing more heroes, or should they be keeping the heroes that people love and associate with legal for as long as possible by using bans and balance and control, right?
That's something I admire LSS for, because that is something I would not. I feel super bad for the people who has their pet hero that has been their ride or die since forever, right? And it's like, I have those locals, right? I have this Bolton person that is always going to be on Bolton no matter what, and you have the Lexi players always going to be on Lexi, and you have the Azalea players always going to be on Azalea, and whenever those hero leaves, what is left? But at the same time, I think that is how LSS wants to refresh the game and keep pushing us into new metas and find out new methodologies. Now we have been living in this ice era for quite some time, with both Oldhim, Icelander, and Lexi just reigning on for I don't know, years. So leaving all the ice behind and moving into a world without the whole ice theme is going to be super, super interesting. So at the same time, it's like, I know it's super fun to play these heroes, but at the same time, we can't keep things stale for forever, right?
And I guess it does raise the question: is when we get these 60 new heroes, is one of them going to be a Lexi? Is it going to, we're probably
is it going to be an ice hero?
Well, so the theory I've heard that I actually kind of ascribe to is that we're probably going to see all of the Tales of Aria heroes back next year, but they're all going to be single element heroes, right? So Oldhim, they all of the heroes are associated primarily with one element and secondarily with another one. So Briar Earth, Lexi Lightning, and Oldhim Ice, and they all have a double element fuse card, but that's only 2 cards out of their entire stable, right? And then there's a few other cards that fuse with one element or the other. But you could reprint Oldhim as an ice hero. You remove potential, the prevention of damage and some of his defense reactions, things like Autumn's Touch, a lot of his, and Crown of Seeds, so a lot of his fatigue capabilities. But you keep his ice control capabilities, which open up other directions. And then Lexi, of course, loses her control side, but keeps her aggro side, and Briar just turns into that slow Briar deck that we saw. So, Briar
started to be very offensive at the end tail of it.
But it's never as good as Oldhim, right? So Briar becomes a pseudo Earth fatigue deck. Oldhim turns into the ice control deck, and Lexi turns into a lightning aggro deck, and then you still have all of those cards from Tales of Aria, except the dual fuses and the pulses legal, and everyone's semi-happy, I guess. I don't know. It's tricky with
it's an interesting prospect. I think that would be an interesting area to discover, because then you would really force people into those significant elements instead of you doing this dual elemental thing that they've been going on for until now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think the pace of change in the game is going to feel very, very different. And I'm not sure any of us know exactly what it's like. Are we going to be really... because we're talking about every 3 months getting 4 new heroes. That's a lot of speed to adapt and to change.
For sure.
And
also try to figure them out, right? Because I don't think we still have figured out how Prism is going to work and be competitive. So I think that is still in the works and in the bubble.
If she's ever going to be competitive. I mean,
maybe.
Dust to Dawn is not aging very, very well. I mean...
I wish Bolton had more oomph, but...
Bolton is in my opinion anyway, the one that's actually doing the best. Levia seems to have come out the gate the strongest. And then kind of just...
everyone was jumping on that.
Fallen over. Vincent was the fan favourite. Everyone wanted her to succeed. And then Bolton has just quietly been like, well, I can fatigue Lexi now. And I can beat Dromai. And you're just like, okay, Bolton. Yeah, good for you.
I see you.
and then Prism is like...
nowhere to be seen.
The Kano but for wizards, like if the wizard players are winning, you can play Prism.
I guess.
Prism is just, I don't know. I don't want to say half-baked. I'm sure the designer has a vision for her, and she is delivering on that vision, but she doesn't fit into the current game in a way.
I'm still so curious what LSS saw that they felt that she deserved a 36 health life pool, because that to me says something significant. When you see a hero that has a lower life total than any other hero in the game, then that says something. And I'm still curious to see what does LSS know that we don't.
On paper, if you fully resolve all of her angels, she has an extra 16 to 20 life. Right?
With the words.
On paper. She has the highest life total in the game. And that's not including attacks given to Spectra, which she still has, and of course the amount of cards that angels could take out of people's hands. So on paper, she has a lot of life, but in practice, I tried for a while and then I just said no. But
is Prism gonna become the new Azalea, where we have to have this bounty given out to whoever wins a pro quest with Prism?
But this is interesting, right? So under the new Living Legend system, and with the new amount of heroes being printed, we could have heroes like New Prism who are just legal for 2 years because they never find their niche, right? Like Azalea is, like not even getting Living Legend points, like Rhinar, right? Rhinar is one of the oldest heroes in the game, has very, very few Living Legend points, given how long he's been in the game.
Yeah.
And then we have the new flavor of heroes coming in, who are going to, because of the number of increased points, Living Legend in 3 to 6 months. So is it just going to be like, here's our stable of heroes who just aren't good enough and are just always hanging around, and here's our stable of heroes who just go flash in a pan, like,
Here are the good heroes for you to main, because you're not going to LL anytime soon.
I was joking with people about this on Twitter, but I 100% believe that if I'm telling a new player to get into the game, I'm going to point them towards a hero who is good, but not too good, right? Because if you were a Dromai main right now, you're laughing. Consistently comes the top 8 of tournaments. Wins you money, wins you prize cards, gold foils, you come second.
And hopefully you have fun playing that day.
and you have fun, right? But doesn't ever get Living Legend points. She doesn't ever win the tournament. So, like, Dromai is going to be illegal for ages because she can't close. So, if you're looking at what heroes are actually good to play in Fab, it's the ones that come close to winning every time, but never actually cross the finish line, right?
Yep.
Yeah, which is hilarious. I mean,
there was an argument to give out LL points not just to the winning hero, like for bigger tournaments, give it out to the whole top 8, because that would put more disparity on what is actually going on, because going into top 8 or pushing heroes into top 8 is the more diverse schema, right? So if you have 4 Lexis in the top 8, then you would have a bigger distribution of LL points potentially. But yeah.
That's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, I agree that those heroes, if they're consistently getting to the top 8, deserve both the recognition and also the balance that eventually retiring brings with it for Living Legend. But on the other hand, have they really earned it? Like, because one of the big questions is like how much should a hero have to earn Living Legend points? I was going to say one of the other polls that I did during the week, which I thought was quite interesting, was this question. So if we identify a hero as actually being toxic to the meta, and I'm not saying that any of the heroes have necessarily gone this far, but if at some point in the future there is a hero that is toxic to the meta and it's earning Living Legend points at a very, very increased speed, and it's winning 60% of all the tournaments that it's going to, and all these other things, what should be the ideal response to that? And I said, if it got to 90 points and we were about to tick over into the next season, should LSS retire that hero and just say 10 points off, it's fine. Just write the check. Like a bit with Lexi now, although Lexi isn't nearly this bad, but, would you be happy with LSS just saying, actually, we think Lexi's proven herself to be good enough, let her Living Legend and let's have a ProQuest season without her? And the majority of people, 57% or something, just said, hey, no, they have to earn every single point to get them across the line. So there is very much this notion that Living Legend points are this earnable, I want my hero to have gained every single accolade before they go out of the tournament. And I wonder if the top 8 Living Legend point split would do that for heroes, or whether it just wouldn't feel like they had actually properly earned it.
No, I believe they should earn their way to the top, because we saw a really interesting thing happen when Prism was so close and Briar was so close for so long, like almost half a year. Briar was like, just one more, and she didn't get there until the very end of it. But that was very interesting to see, compared to when we had Starvo moving around and he just skyrocketed into the LL format without even passing go. And compare that to what we see today, I think is a huge shift in perspective. And so whenever someone says, a hero is toxic, and it's like, you haven't seen anything. It's like, if you haven't been there when we saw this, you can just move on. But I think the balancing aspect of the game that we see today is much more mature than what we saw a year ago, and I think that's the main point.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean that is the thing. Like, we could easily see targeted bans at this stage. Like, even if they wanted to keep Lexi around, they could completely just ban some cards and keep her in the format. So the fact that they're pushing for her to Living Legend so fast probably is coming back to what you said, and what James White, I know, said in an interview, is they're kind of keen to get the Ice Heroes out of the game for a while, and see how it feels without them. So, because
I don't think she's overly oppressive. I mean, she won, what was it, 40-50% of all the nationals?
Like 42,
Yeah, so I mean, sure, she's one of the strongest decks in the meta right now, but she's not winning 90% of it. I mean, there is room. There's absolutely wiggle room here. So at the end tail of it, I think it's okay. It's okay. It's not horrible.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's okay. Like, good, but not too good. People will be happy for her to go.
The Lexi mains are raining on, and it's they should have their spotlight. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just that debate that comes up on Twitter whenever anything happens, because you probably know this, but in an interview 2 years ago, it was made very clear by James White, I think it was before one of the Pro Tours, that Living Legend isn't for balance.
No.
Bans are for balance, Living Legend is for rotation. But it's still this fine line, because you could do what happened to Brian. You could just ban the class cards that make the problem, keep the hero around for a long time, and not annoy the people who made that hero. Or you can say, we're done, just get rid of them. And I think when you do one versus the other is something that Fab doesn't, maybe LSS knows, but the community doesn't understand the difference yet. Because I've seen people calling for both. I've seen people saying, why aren't you just banning cards from Lexi? Why does she have to rotate? And I've seen other people being like, no, we're good. Let's just get rid of Tales of Aria heroes and move on, right?
I think the ones we hear are the mad ones. I don't typically see all the happy ones be like, oh, what a nice BNR announcement. I mean, the most positive things that came out of the BNR announcement was the fact that we were getting more draftable sets in the future. Like, that was the most positive things that came out on Twitter, at least, was what I saw.
I think that was the one thing everyone quite liked hearing. Supplemental sets have been a bit shaky in people's...
I was excited about it. I was like, holy shit, we're going to play so much Limited next year. I'm so excited.
Exactly. And for me, it's just because I come from games where we have lots of different like IDs and heroes like Netrunner and Legend of the Five Rings. Every time a new hero comes out that opens up different deck building capabilities, I'm all for it, even if they're not mine. So I fully embrace, hey, give me as many heroes as possible. Some will be good now, some will be good later, and let's just have fun with everything that enables. Because for me, heroes such a linchpin of deck building, that and I like heroes where they're specialized as well. So I mean, we probably won't get into talking too much about the Bright Light spoilers now, but we've seen 3 heroes from that set who are all very specialized into what they do. You know, one plays Evos from the Banished Zone, one makes hyperdrivers so they have more resources when they boost, and the other one can just scry the top card of their deck and put items into play, right? So, you know, they're all playing down this very, I would say, semi-flexible, but also kind of focused route. And when I see that kind of design, I get quite excited, because it makes it more likely that we're going to get, you know, the Guardian that focuses on preventing damage, and the Guardian that focuses on blocking, and here's the Guardian that just focuses on smashing you with huge attacks, right? And we get 2 Guardians that do very, very different things. Here's an Aura Guardian, and here's another deck that doesn't really care much about auras. And you can build those with these flexible abilities, stuff like Bravo has, but for me it's much more interesting when you have a hero that actually says, this is what I do it well, and then they get specific tailored support for them that kind of does it, you know?
Yeah. And I think we see that more and more with the later sets. I mean, all the heroes from Outsiders, it does exactly that, right? Which pivots you into an avenue where you really have to tailor around that to get maximum effect of it. And that helps out a lot in deck building, I think, because that's the core center of it. And now you all of a sudden have 3 mech heroes that goes into 3 different avenues, and you can just, well, I want to go full mech and just build up top of those heartbeat drivers and build this mechanoid at the end of the game as fast as possible. Then you can do that. Yeah. And you have the perfect hero to do so with. So it opens up very interesting avenues, and I'm super curious to see where this is going to leave Dash by the end of it, and also how many reprints we're going to see.
That is true.
Coming into this set.
2 vital questions, like, will Dash still be good as a mechanologist, or is she just too broad? And, you know,
it's going to be Dash IO now, or is it going to be Maxwell, or is Tekla wasn't going to be the thing?
Well, they kind of,
it's going to be super.
It's this massive rags to riches. I think the mech mains are going to be very confused as to what to do with themselves for a while. It's like,
Possibly.
Who do I like more? Who do I play first? Like,
I've been playing Dash forever, and all of a sudden I have 3 new heroes to contemplate about.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the adult versions yet. The adult versions could be something completely different as well. Tekla wasn't we've seen. Maxwell and Dash we haven't seen the adult versions, right?
I think they'll be the same. I'm not expecting we'll see any major difference. Yeah, my only crackpot.
Because they had the specialized name, right? Because typically we see a young hero only has like Teklevossen, he's only called Teklevossen, and his adult version is called Teklevossen something. But Maxwell is already called Maxwell something as a young version, so that suggests that his adult version is going to do something maybe different.
Because it's all about comma usage, right? So Max Nitro is his full name. It's like his first and last name is Max Nitro. So his adult hero is probably going to be Max Nitro, comma something. Whereas with Dash, it's different because there's already a young Dash with the same name, so they have to give her a title. I do think they will
same with Prism, right?
But my theory with Dash is that Dash isn't actually the hero. Like, Dash Database is actually the AI in the art for the Dash. And then Dash IO is going to be the adult version of the AI we see in the art. And Dash is still off doing her own thing, right? So I don't think this is actually Dash at all. I think it's actually just a clone of Dash that's been made in this computer space.
Her AI.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just my theory. We'll see what happens. But
super exciting times ahead, for sure.
Yeah. I think this is definitely a new departure for Fab, having one class sets and
a whole new limited era going forward. It's going to be wild, to say the least.
Drafting this set is going to be insane, and I actually I cannot wait.
Next weekend.
Next week. Well, yeah, exactly. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was so sick. I've been so caught up with my
next
journey.
Weekend.
I've been like, what? Okay, pre-releases are next weekend. Okay.
Are you getting back in time for the pre-releases?
I am definitely getting back in time for the pre-releases, and I have to practice Sealed because I will be playing Sealed in Barcelona. So I've got to get these reps in.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have kept you for far too long, but I think this is such an interesting topic. I mean, the Living Legend system is such an important part of the future of Fab, and how we're just trying to read the minds of the developers and the designers, you know, as to why they ban some things and they don't ban others, and why some heroes Living Legend and others don't, and what's going to happen in the next year or two. And maybe we made a few good guesses. I mean, who knows?
We'll see.
All right. Well, as always, it's been great to sit down and chat. It's just really good to talk about Fab with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. And I will see you soon.
See you again. Bye-bye.
Hi, it's Steelfur again, just popping in at the end of this latest episode of Steelfur Speaks. As always, it was delightful to have Erica join us for what was a really good discussion about the Living Legend format and the implications of that for the rest of the game, and how we feel about Lexi being left to retire versus other options that could have been considered. As always, just to remind you about the different ways you can get in touch with us. You can find Erica at Erica Forsloff on Twitter, myself at Steelfur Speaks, also, of course, on YouTube at Steelfur Speaks, and then just other things that are going on. If you've really enjoyed what you've listened to, there is a Patreon where you can just support the channel. Just small amounts just to show me and the people I bring on that you think we're doing a good job. And then aside from that, there is a Discord if you want to get in touch with me, or you can find me on all the major Discords. There is also, we're on to chapter 6, going into chapter 7 of my fan fiction novel based in the world of Wraith, which can be found at wraithfables.com. And all those other kind of projects going on. But most importantly, if you have watched this video and if you have listened to 36 minutes of this video and you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, please do. It is the clearest way to send a signal to me and to the people who watch me and assess that I'm doing a good job and that my content is good and that you like what is happening on the Steelfur Speaks channel. It is the clearest way to show me and other people that. So if you have not liked and subscribed to this video, please do. It means the world to me when people show me that they enjoy what I've been watching by both watching it and engaging with it. So thanks a lot, and I will speak to you all soon.